many of us have had a conversation about periods in the last 1 month? Not the grammar kind, the menstruation kind. And if you talk to me or somebody in the menstrual health track last night, it doesn't count. Raise your hands. Not enough hands. Well, let me get some conversations going. This is our product, and on behalf of all of us in the menstrual hygiene track, enjoy. Here you go. And here's a bag for you. My click is open. Why are periods such a taboo subject? After all, they're the healthiest thing in the world. Periods mean we're in the prime of our lives. The menstrual cycle is the reason we're all here on this planet. I suppose we think women just have to manage it and get on with life. But the reality is women cannot manage their periods around the world, and girls cannot get on with life. In fact, in East Africa, where I work, 4 in 5 girls and women cannot access affordable sanitary pads or related health and rights-based information. What this means is that without pads, girls cannot concentrate in the classroom and often stay home. Without rights-based health education, girls can't make informed decisions. And what this means, for example, is that almost 1 in 2 girls in Kenya, their first sexual encounter is unwanted. Can you imagine how this combination constricts girls' future outcomes? The very good news is that pads and health education expand girls' future opportunities. With pads and health education, we've seen girls move up in their class and entire schools move up in their counties. We've seen girls say not only are they better able to manage their menstruation, but they're better able to manage negative peer pressure. When I asked a girl how she feels about getting pads and health education, one girl said, very shyly, "I feel like the whole world loves me." Another girl said, "It makes me proud to be a girl, and I know I'll go as far as boys can go in the classroom." With the Grand Challenges community, I'd like to share how we've done 3 things over the last few years in innovating pads, innovating health education, and producing data. First, sanitary pads. We set out in 2011 through Grand Challenges Explorations Round 6 and the Gates Foundation to innovate sanitary pads from non-wood pulps on large-scale machines. Thanks to that grant and a scale-up grant that included Grand Challenges Canada, we succeeded. We literally went from a blender in a kitchen in Cambridge to a pulping plant in Ohio to pad production in Nairobi, Kenya. We have several potential product innovations and a process innovation that are patentable. We did it. Thanks. With another scale-up grant, we hope to transition this to scale through engineering innovation so that we can hopefully reduce the end cost of pads by about 30%. In the meantime, however, we have to prove out our business model. We've created our brand, Nia, which some of you now have, that means purpose in Swahili, and we're testing out our sales strategy and building our customer base. We're now serving 20,000 girls and women every month in this, our first year in commercial markets. But number 2 is health education, because pads aren't enough. Throwing pads at girls, like I just did with you, doesn't necessarily dramatically change life outcomes. So health education simply means answering girls' questions. So we asked them what questions they had, and the answer was pretty much everything. From basic biology, what is menstruation? What is vaginal discharge? Why am I having pimples and I smell? Please help me. To very serious questions around safety and relationships. My boyfriend's pressurizing me to have sex and I don't want to. What do I do? Or this one here. Why do boys neglect you once they know you have their pregnancy? Yes, Why do boys neglect you once you're pregnant with their child? Good question. To very serious ones, one of the ones that hurts my heart the most is some variation of when a girl is raped and she reports it, why does nothing happen? And these are 12-year-old girls, 12 to 14. So we asked them how they want answers, and they told us, comics, fun, aspirational, and something they can hold on to in a world where they have very few things of their own. Through a USAID grant with Shops and Handshep, we produced 12 front and back comics and tested them. We got 65% knowledge retention and 98% sharing rates. It really worked. But as we continued to listen to girls, they wanted a more deep narrative and longer narrative. They loved the story, and they wanted the educational materials around the comics. And we asked ourselves, okay, what does around mean? And we realized we were creating a magazine. Imagine if your textbook were reinvented as a fun magazine you got at the beginning of every term. Our first 5 issues will go through the entire UNESCO Comprehensive Sexuality Education Technical Guidelines, which is essentially the gold star in health education. This process and result is really girl-wrought. It's forged from 4 years of work with 7,000 girls. It's really what they want. 3 is data. We're testing this out thanks to Melinda Gates' Putting Women and Girls at the Center Development Grant. Through that, we're doing a 2-year randomized control trial following class 7 girls through graduation and primary in 140 schools in Kilifi. We're really testing our full theory of change of how PADS and related health education work together synergistically to amplify outcomes in both school metrics as well as health and safety. This may have global implications for what works at scale. The world needs global implications for what works at scale. What this map tells us, which many of you might know, is global demographics, and how in many countries, half the country is in their 20s or younger. In Africa, mostly in their teens and younger. And in fact, almost a quarter of the world's population is going to start puberty in the next 15 years. Think about that for a moment. If we don't help those boys and girls successfully stay in school and navigate adolescence, we're sunk. But there's very good news, as I hope you've just heard this morning. In conclusion, what I've realized through the Grand Challenge's integration of all these grants as we've done our work is that we're not just making PADS, we're not just delivering health education, we're creating a movement of girls and women who are proudly and positively connected to their bodies and to each other so that we can step boldly into the promise of our future. That's really what menstrual health management is about. And so I invite you to think about this for your own lives and join this movement. Personally, have a conversation about periods with your partner. Answer an adolescent's questions about health. Or professionally, do you have a menstrual hygiene lens? If you do, there's a number of us in the menstrual health track. Would you just stand up for a moment? I believe there are a number of us here. Awesome. Talk to one of us about how we've been able to deepen our impact. Thank you, you guys can sit down. How we've been able to deepen our impact through having a menstrual health lens and what that might mean for you all in policy or in your programs. We've talked about gender health lenses, and I really think this is the next frontier in cross-cutting development. That's my email address. I'd be delighted to talk to you about what that could look like. Asanteni, thank you very much.